I started buying secondhand items in 2019. I was looking for a very particular pair of pants, but they were sold out on the website, so I found them on Poshmark for like a third of the price. Pulled the trigger, got them in, and was like, this is pretty cool. I felt like I had cracked the code for getting high quality pieces in my closet without spending a fortune. Almost half of my closet is made up of secondhand items, and I have had some really good finds. However, I made so many mistakes along the way. I bought a lot of things that I ended up not wearing and not liking. So these are the tips that I wish that I knew when I started buying secondhand way back when, and I hope help you make some really great additions to your closet. A really common misconception a lot of beginners have about secondhand shopping is that used clothes are icky. They're generally not. If a store or if a person is reselling an item, it's usually in pretty good condition. A lot of times you can even find items that are new with tags. And we've all done this, where we've bought something thinking we would like it and it just sits in our closet with the tags on for a long time until we finally decide we no longer want it. So you can find a lot of those items new with tags, new without tags, or at least in very, very good used condition. So these are the 4 rules that I follow when shopping secondhand, whether in-store or online. It's a fun little acronym. It's LFACS. So starting with the L. The L stands for list. I always like to have a list of what I'm looking for, and it can be as general as brown belt, leather bag, wide leg jeans, or it can be as specific as Citizens of Humanity Anina Crescent wide leg jean size X. But having a list gives me some sort of direction of what I'm looking for. The F stands for fit. The fit has to be really good. It can be so easy to buy something a size too big or a size too small because it's the only one available and just hope that it works. So there are ways both online and in store that you can make sure that an item fits you well before purchasing. The Q stands for quality. There are a couple things I look for in quality. I really only buy natural fabrics, even secondhand, so I'll be looking for cotton, linen, wool, cashmere, silk. I avoid polyester, acrylic, nylon, even if it's part of a blend. If something has a stain on it, it's usually an automatic no-go for me. There's always a chance that I could get the stain out, but it's not guaranteed, and I'm still going to be spending money on an item that may not work. The places I usually look for stains is going to be around the neckline and the crew neck, the armpits, and then anywhere on the front. There are certain brands that are lower quality and don't hold up after multiple wears. So I usually avoid buying from Walmart, Shein, Forever 21 secondhand. The last thing I look for in quality is wear and tear. Are any seams coming undone? Is there any discoloration? Is there any pilling? If there's a lot of wear and tear on a piece that's already pretty cheaply made, I'm not going to get it. However, if it's a really quality item like real leather and there's wear and tear on that creates a beautiful patina that I think gives the item more character. So it kind of depends on what it is. The S stands for style. I always double check that what I'm buying actually fits my style and my life and is a practical purchase. This just happened this morning where this beautiful silk skirt came up on Thredup for a really, really good price, and I put it in my cart and I'm so tempted to buy it. But it's not practical for my life right now. I mean, I'm home with a baby all day. I'm not going to be wearing a silk skirt. I am regretfully passing that one up. I have a totally different strategy when shopping for secondhand clothes online than I do in person. There are kind of 2 different types of secondhand shopping online. There's consignment stores, which will be Thredup, The Real, and that's where people send in their clothes to a company. The company is responsible for taking photos, listing the item, providing measurements, providing price, all of that stuff. And the second type of online thrift shopping is through personal sales. So apps like Mercari and Poshmark, where individual users upload their items, take photos, add a description, and sell their own things. There are pros and cons to buying from each type of site, and I have used both pretty extensively. With the consignment stores, I have found better prices, especially if I'm patient. They will only list items for a certain amount of time, and once that time runs out, the items expire, and usually leading up to that time, they'll discount the price pretty heavily. They also will offer usually a free shipping threshold or bundled shipping. With a lot of the consignment stores online, I find there's usually higher demand per item because the time per item is shorter. So there's a sense of urgency there. With self-sellers, you usually get more information. So when someone is selling something on Poshmark or Mercari, they're going to usually list the exact style, sometimes the exact color, the size, they'll give you detailed measurements. And what I love about these sites is you can ask questions. So each listing has a comment section and you can message the seller publicly and ask questions about the garment. I highly recommend doing this. There's so much information that you may want to know that someone might not list. I'll frequently ask for measurements, how this fits on the person, if they find it true to size or not. You wouldn't really get that level of detail from a consignment shop. On personal sites, you can usually offer a lower price, or the seller will send you a private offer with a lower price. I've never purchased something full price on Poshmark. I've always submitted a reasonable offer and it's usually accepted. Most sellers want to get rid of these items. They want to make a little money, so they're willing to negotiate somewhat. The big downside for personal apps is they usually charge shipping per seller. So unless you're bundling items from a seller, you're going to be paying $7 to $8 in shipping per item. And that can add up. But you're also usually getting a really good discount on each item. So it is what it is. What I love about secondhand online stores too is that you can sell your clothes back to them. So I have bought a lot of stuff on Poshmark, and I don't know if I've ever paid anything out of pocket because I've just used money that I've made by selling my old clothes. So it's like I'm trading clothes that I don't like for clothes that I really love. My favorite strategy for finding unique items online is to find it new first and then try to search for it secondhand. If I'm browsing a retailer's website and I see a top that I really like, I'll go to Google or Poshmark and search for that particular top and see if I can find it online. So how do you actually find the pieces you want secondhand? My first tip is to use save searches. Most websites and apps will have a feature that allow you to save a search, and then any items that come up that match your criteria go into your feed. The search can be as particular as a specific style, a specific color, a specific size, or it can be a little bit more vague. Another way I would recommend finding these pieces online is to use Google. Google is such a great resource for shopping secondhand online. I'll usually use a term like Poshmark or eBay in my search so Google knows I'm looking for it secondhand. And if you go to the shopping tab on Google, you can select the retailer, and a lot of times it will have Poshmark, eBay, Mercari on there, so you can just see results from those sites. Google will often show me results from other websites that I'm not familiar with or not on regularly. I will say Google is not great about showing size on secondhand search results. It will show you usually the picture, a quick description, but you usually have to click into the result to see the size. So just look out for that if you use Google. One thing that scared me a little bit when I first started shopping secondhand online is I didn't know if something would fit, and most websites are either final sale or have pretty hefty return fees. I will caveat this and say websites will also have some sort of guarantees. If you buy something that's not accurate to the description or it's defective in some way, the sites will usually take it back free of charge and refund you your entire purchase order, including shipping. With size though, there are some really cool things you can do to make sure that something fits well. My top recommendation for ensuring something's going to fit before you buy it is knowing your measurements and trusting the measurements of the piece over what size it is. The best way to find your measurement is to measure items of clothing you actually have. If you're shopping for jeans, for example, take out your favorite pair of jeans from your closet and measure your waist, rise, inseam, and leg width. That will give you a great template for knowing what measurements of jeans you need to look for online. In shirts, you'll want to look for pit to pit, which is the length of the chest. In jackets, you'll want to look for pit to pit length and sometimes arm length, especially if you're someone like me who has very long arms. In dresses, you want to look for length and pit to pit. Occasionally, you want to look for waist too. So I have a very long torso, so I like to know where the waist hits compared to the neckline, so I can see if it hits me at my true waist or it's going to be hitting me in my ribs. Shoes, I also ask for length and width. Shoes can be really tricky to buy secondhand because sizing differs so much. So asking for the length and width and then comparing that to a shoe you already own will help you find your true size online. Not all items secondhand online will list measurements though, so if they don't, here's what I do. One, I ask, especially if it's on Poshmark or Mercari, I'll leave a comment and ask the seller, what's the inseam, what's the waist, what's the rise? And I usually get a response back. If you can't ask, like if it's on Thredup or The Real and it's a brand you already own, just compare it to similar items from the brand and you'll usually be okay. If it's a brand you're not familiar with and you can't get measurements, I like to do a little Google snooping and try to find the piece on the retailer's website. A lot of stores will keep archived pieces up online so you can still see some basic information and reviews of that particular piece. I try to find the exact style on the retail's website and look for any measurements or reviews they have. If they have measurements, that's great. If not, I'll look for the reviews and see if people are saying they find it true to size or you need to size up or size down. One red flag for me with buying secondhand online is if I see a lot of the same thing repeated. But you go to search an item and you find that item is being sold by, it seems like, hundreds of people. That kind of gives me pause. And I think if so many people are selling this item, it didn't work for them, they didn't like it enough to keep it, what's wrong with it? So I usually pass on an item if I see multiples of it being sold secondhand. My last tip with secondhand shopping online is to be patient. It can take a long time to find the right piece. I've been building my closet secondhand for over 4 years now, and some pieces have taken me 4 years to find. And I have pieces on my list right now that I've had saved searches for a couple of years, and I still haven't quite found what I'm looking for. So take your time, be patient, but you'll find what you're looking for eventually, and you'll probably get a good deal on it. My favorite sites to shop secondhand are Poshmark, Thredup, eBay. And then I'd also recommend using Google and using Google Lens. Google Lens lets you do an image search, so if you can't find the specific style of what you're looking for secondhand, Google Lens will usually help you in that area. Or if you have kind of an idea of what you want, but you're not totally sure of the particular piece you're looking for, Google Lens can be a great resource to get you close to what you want. In-store shopping secondhand is a whole different beast than online shopping. There are a couple different styles of thrift stores in person. There's a traditional thrift store like Goodwill or Savers, and there's also consignment stores where people sell their clothes, the company buys it, and then they relist. Thrift stores will usually have a less curated offering of clothing but better prices, and consignment stores will usually have a better curated offering of clothing but higher prices. So it depends on what you're looking for here. Thrifting is a lot of work and a lot of energy. So if you're going to a physical thrift store, my first tip is to go on a day when you have energy and you have the mental clarity, because it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of patience to sift through all the items. Speaking of sifting, the next tip is to sift through each item individually. It can be really tempting just to walk up and down the thrift store aisles, kind of scan the pieces and try to evaluate them that way. What you'll want to do though is go up to each section and piece by piece spread the hangers out and evaluate each piece individually. That's how you're going to find better pieces of clothing. I've heard some people recommend searching through every size in the store in the hopes that someone put away some beautiful piece in the wrong size. I personally don't like to do this because, one, it's already a lot of energy going through my size, and two, I don't want to be tempted by things that aren't my size in the hopes I'm going to find this one piece that is my size tucked away somewhere. I so much prefer going to thrift stores on an off day too. I'll go on Saturdays and Sundays and I still have some good luck there. I really like going during the week because there's typically fewer people and it's just a calmer experience. When you're shopping in person, you don't have the time to sit back, take a breath, and think about what you're purchasing. If I find something that I like, I'll usually walk around the store holding it for a while and try to take that time to pause and evaluate if this is really going to be a good addition to my closet. At the end of the day, even if it isn't very expensive, I don't want to bring things into my home that I don't truly love. I would recommend looking at local thrift stores and consignment stores first before going to some of the bigger box items. I've had so much luck at Goodwill and Savers, but I find that their prices are a little more inflated than my local options. So here's kind of the map of how I navigate a thrift store. I usually start in the men's button-downs. I love button-downs, and I typically lean towards a more oversized button-down in a solid color. Men's button-downs are perfect for that. They have a lot of larger sizes, a boxier cut, and a lot of solid colors. The men's section also has great belts. I always find that women's belts in thrift stores tend to be very embellished and funky and cheaply made, but the men's section, you can find some nice quality classic leather belts. Blazers and jackets is such a fun thing to find in the men's section. You can find blazers, you can find some cool bombers, you can even find a good leather jacket in the men's section. I probably have had the most luck in the men's section with sweaters. They typically have simple crewneck boxy sweaters in solid colors and really high quality fabrics. The women's sweaters tend to focus more on the design and less on the fabric, and I find a lot of polyester, nylon, acrylic in women's sweaters. T-shirts are the last section I look through in the men's department. I prefer a men's cut t-shirt anyways, where the sleeves are a little bit longer. It's a boxier cut. It's usually natural fabrics and solid colors. Moving on to women's, I'll usually start in jackets. I find that women's jackets in thrift stores tend to be the highest quality women's piece. Jackets are also a smaller section, so it kind of feels like an accomplishment to go through that and get that one out of the way first. Next, I'll usually look for wardrobe staples like t-shirts and tank tops. You can usually find some solid staples in the racks. I'll also browse women's button-ups. Because most women's button-ups, especially older styles, tend to be a little bit more fitted, I'll usually look my size and a couple sizes up to see if I can find a bit of a boxier shape. Pay special attention to the fabric content here. And don't go just by feel, because some of the pieces will feel really nice, but if you look at the fabric, it will be 100% polyester. Or likewise, some of the fabrics may feel stiff and starched, but it will be 100% linen and cotton. And just remember that women used to starch their shirts to be really, really stiff. So if you feel something very, very stiff, check the fabric. You might have found something really, really good. I'll take a few minutes and look over bags and jewelry as well. With bags, I'm looking for more of a classic design and 100% leather. And with jewelry, I'm looking for something that's a little bit funky. You'll find a lot of really cheap costume jewelry at thrift stores. I skip over that. I'm looking for something unique and different. If I'm running short on time or energy, I will skip both jeans and shoes. Part of the reason is they don't usually carry my size. I'm a size 11 in shoes and I'm 6'2", and most jeans at the thrift store just won't be long enough. I also have found that so many thrift stores carry a lot of super stretchy, skinny, low-rise jeans, which is just not what I'm interested in. And it's a lot of effort to go through hundreds of skinny, stretchy, low-rise jeans to hopefully find one rigid, high-rise, long jean. So I usually skip those sections. I don't know if this is the case everywhere, but in my area, since COVID, thrift stores are not offering try-on options. This becomes kind of a challenge because there are certain things like jeans that you really want to make sure fit before you take them home. So there are a couple ways you could do this. One trick is the neck rule. If you take the jean and you lay it flat, if the waistline can fit around your neck, that's usually a good indicator that it will fit your waist too. I don't know why it works, but apparently it works. Another thing you can do that feels a little dorky, but is really, really helpful, is bring a measuring tape and your measurements with you. It's going to be really easy to measure the pieces in store and know if they'll fit you or not. After a while too, I think you get a good eye for what's going to fit. I kind of know what's going to fit me or not just based on sight, because I've been doing this for quite a while. There are some secondhand traps that can be so easy to fall into. And even though we're looking at clothes secondhand, and we're usually looking at clothes at quite a reduced price, we still want to be sure that the clothes we're bringing home we love and are going to suit us well in our closet. So these are the pitfalls to look out for if you're buying secondhand. The first is to get caught up in the reduced price, especially if it's not quite right for you. If a top is $2, it can feel so tempting to buy it because it's cute and it works well enough. But if you wouldn't consider it full price, I wouldn't consider it at $2 either. Another trap that I see a lot is buying something that's too small or too big just to make it work. With secondhand shopping, there's so many pieces that you can only find one of. And if it's something you love, it ticks a lot of your boxes, but it isn't the right size, it can be really tempting to bring it home anyways and just hope that it works. But at the end of the day, we still want to buy pieces that fit us well, not just that we like the look of on the hanger. I have done this before where I have a gap that I'm trying to fill and I buy something secondhand that's almost there but not quite right, but it's really affordable, so I decide I'm just going to make it work. And it never works. I always end up searching for the thing I'm actually looking for instead. And by this time I've wasted time and I've wasted money buying something that didn't quite work as well as I had hoped it would work. So wait for the real thing, take your time, be patient, and make sure you get what you're actually looking for. If you are someone like me who has never dry cleaned in their life, look for care instructions too. And don't be tempted to buy something that's dry clean only, knowing that you've never dry cleaned in your life and probably never will. So those are my best tips for finding items secondhand. I hope you have luck going to the thrift store or shopping online, and if you find something cool, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching.